Hi, welcome to the outlet. This is episode 8, and we're going to be discussing current events in Yemen. I'm Mac.
And I'm Drew. And the Yemen conflict that's going on right now is something that not a lot of people know about. I personally didn't know very much about it until very recently, until Mac had actually mentioned it to me. So there is a genocide or almost a Holocaust going on committed by other countries in that region who are being empowered by the UN, and nothing is being said in our country, at least, or no one's really paying attention to what's going on. There's millions of starving people. So before we get into the kind of nasty shit about Yemen, Matt, give us some background on kind of how this started or what's going on over there.
Okay, so Yemen is a somewhat small country. It's southwest of Saudi Arabia, and it is a very strategic location because of the Suez Canal, the Red Sea there, which a large portion of the world's oil supply travels through. It's a Muslim country, has about 24 million people or so, depending on who's estimating. So it has a pretty large population that's only slightly smaller than Saudi Arabia's population. It borders Saudi Arabia and it borders Oman to the east. And became a Muslim country actually. Islam was spread there while Muhammad was alive in around 630 AD, sent his cousin there. And if you're interested in the history, you can look that up yourself. We'll move on to more current events. More recently, you had some sort of civil war occurring there in the 70s and 80s that Saudi, Britain, and Egypt were all involved in, funding different sides. I think Saudi and Britain were on the same side. So you've had quite a bit of instability there for the last 40 years or so, for sure, 50 years almost. And more recently, things started to really heat up a few years after 9/11, right around the time of the Iraq invasion. You had Shia and Houthi rebels in Yemen start to have an uprising around 2004, right as U.S. becomes heavily involved in the Middle East right after 9/11. So that's kind of conspicuous there. And then around 2009, you have Al Qaeda acting heavily in the region, and you actually had some U.S. airstrikes there in 2009. So that's right when Barack Obama becomes president of the United States. This is actually post-Bush here, and in 2010, we were already giving the Yemen $140 million in war support. That's coming just from the U.S. alone. That probably doesn't even. I bet Saudi was giving a lot too. All under the Obama administration. This was not really reported on in the media,
Right.
and that has become a significant factor here in Yemen. The media is really not reporting it. It's starting to get a little more attention because it's getting so bad. Even WikiLeaks and Julian Assange published the Yemen papers showing U.S. involvement there.
Yes.
And in
And
2011, you had the
whether
Arab Spring.
whether it's direct or indirect, the WikiLeaks definitely showed direct U.S. involvement, but
Yep.
the U.S. is directly and indirectly involved in these people starving and dying because the instability that we've caused in that region and allowing our munitions and weapons to fall into the hands of ISIS or Al Qaeda, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same thing. It's the same entity of people. Those people are using those weapons on civilians.
Yes.
And we paid for them, and we left them over there, or will militarily support a country, and then, oh, well, we never would have expected that all of the weapons fell into the hands of these crazies. Oh, wait, this has happened in 7 countries over there. Have we not figured this out yet? There's obviously somebody's doing this on purpose. Somebody's
Definitely.
making money off of this. And then you
Definitely.
have countries like Saudi Arabia who have recently been tied to 9/11, who are basically charged by the UN, this great, government mommy or government daddy to take care of all of us, who's been charged Saudi Arabia as to be the head of this Human Rights Council.
Yeah, it's
Well,
such a joke. They're
it's such a total joke because they've created this, like, it's called the Joint. I can't even read my own right. Joint Incidents Assessment Team, JIAT.
and that's who's operating most of the war going on there.
And they're being accused. There are stories coming out now, Al Jazeera or RT, that are, of course, being swept under the rug and not followed up on, where accusing Saudi Arabia through this entity bombing Yemen,
Yes, and
or
so
ignoring certain bombings that are going on there.
yeah, absolutely. And real things really picked up there militarily around probably towards the end of 2014 into 2015. Things started to get really bad there. In the summer of 2015, I believe, was when the UN warned about mass starvation beginning to occur there because
Mm-hmm.
Yemen imports most of its food. Right now, you have a big naval blockade going on, and that is being orchestrated by the U.S. and Saudi. We have a lot of U.S. Navy ships are there, and it appears that it's mostly the Saudis who are using airstrikes. It's mostly the Saudi Air Force, but we're now hearing many, many more reports of U.S. drones attacking there. And the damage to civilian infrastructure has been severe, to say the least. I think that's an understatement.
Oh
Everything's
yeah,
been blown up, and Saudi Arabia in the West is claiming to be attacking Houthi rebels and Al Qaeda, who are allegedly being supported by Iran, but obviously they're attacking all these civilian targets, so
yeah,
that doesn't really add up.
yeah. I
Um,
call bullshit on that. If you watch two videos on
yeah,
YouTube, just type in Yemen conflict and look at the videos on YouTube. Every single video are these people. I mean, I think the estimation is 3 million people are starving to death right now, and at least 7 to 8 million people don't know, like, where their food's coming from. And the other
yep,
figure I read, 90% of Yemen's food is imported. That is ridiculous. That is a way to control a whole population of people, is to cut off their food supply.
yep.
But yeah, these are women and children. They're really not even men. It's women and children being affected. You can see videos on YouTube of tactical nukes being dropped on
That's
these
insane. Yeah,
right outside of cities, where some guy has his
looking
camera up and has to get behind the wall because the shockwave is. You can see the shockwave coming through town.
Yeah, and those bombs aren't coming from these Houthi rebels, and if you look at if you watch some of the videos, I mean you're seeing these so-called insurgents or whatever we're calling them there.
Hmm.
They're not even wearing military gear. They look like sheep herders or something
Right.
carrying small arms. Where are these big bombs coming from? Obviously, they're probably coming from American manufacturers because that's who makes most of the world's ammunitions. And
Whether we're pulling the trigger or not, directly
and
firing it, they are in some way coming from
like I highly
us.
doubt Iran has the funding to be giving them that many big bombs, and I don't see how this would ever help Iran.
Mhm. No,
So
and that seems
things
that
just don't
seems
add
to
up
be
there.
the name of the game in that entire region.
Just blame
Is
Iran.
either
I mean,
that, or don't worry if you don't have any ammo, because the U.S. will
we'll give you.
lose a whole
Yeah,
bunch of shit real soon in some other country, and
that's
we'll be
similar to
able to
what's
bomb whatever
occurring
we
in
want.
Syria, where most of the bombs being dropped are U.S. and Russian made.
Yep.
Yeah, it's it's really wild, um, and it appears that this war was wholly sanctioned by the Obama administration. Both his secretaries of state were involved, both Hillary Clinton and John Kerry. And as we speak right now, Trump has been in office for what, a week, 2 weeks,
A little more than that.
two
Yeah, 2 weeks.
weeks.
Yeah,
So,
two
and
weeks.
there's already been a big drone strike that killed civilians, and he's getting negative press for that, which is, for most people, I think we consider that good that we're actually getting some press coverage.
Definitely,
But it looks like
because
they're trying to kind of blame Trump on this already, even
right.
though this is not his operation. It has been going on
Yeah,
for
I don't
for
remember seeing many briefings at all from the Obama administration about drone strikes and people dying, and that was all kind of washed away or pushed under the rug.
definitely. That's good that it's coming to light, but I think that we need to be fair on the criticism here. And so far this isn't Trump's war. We'll see what his administration does. It appears that they're going to continue this awful involvement here. And
Yeah, this uh, upcoming time for Trump as far as what he decides to do or what his team decides to do with war and conflict in the Middle East is it's going to set the tone for the rest of his presidency because
Definitely.
if he cares about human beings like he says he does, or at least he says about the American people, but if he really cares about people, he'll just withdraw everything out of there because just our
Yeah.
presence over there is causing disruption and death of
Yeah.
civilians.
Yeah. The number of internally displaced in Yemen, I mean, it's estimated at millions and millions and millions. I mean, probably way more than the population
Right.
that's starving right now. So
Yeah, and if you want to get down to just how volatile that whole region is all I'll say about this is think about how much disruption the establishment of the state of Israel caused just by
yeah,
the establishment of that state, how much division and turmoil that caused in that region. And now we're talking about us sending half of our military over there. How much blowback and displacement do you think that is causing?
yeah, it's
So,
it's
a
crazy.
lot, a whole lot.
I think we're looking at a second Afghanistan here or something where if we do send the military there, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse and
Yeah.
or continue to stay the same.
Yeah, I think whoever's behind this Middle East conflict, whoever's pulling strings, is really hoping that there's so much disruption in that region that somebody attacks us big time. It's like they're
Yeah,
trying to provoke an
provoke
attack.
an attack or make one up and have
Yeah,
someone to blame.
that's usually what they do if they can't get somebody
Yeah,
to, because they create a false flag like Gulf of Tonkin or Operation Northwoods or Pearl Harbor or 9/11. However you, I mean, we can
yep,
go into that rabbit hole, but yeah, it's much more convenient if somebody actually attacks them.
yeah. And Yemen itself, I don't believe is a very big oil producer at all. But
It's no, it's
it's
very
strategic.
strategically located,
Yeah, that
right on
seems
the
to
tip of the
be
peninsula.
yeah, that seems to be the issue there. Um, but I don't think Yemen itself had ever really caused any issues to any of the ships going by, as far as I know.
I can't imagine it's a country
Now
full
they
of
are.
yeah, yeah, it's full of women and children. Seems like
But yeah, but now after all this Saudi and Western involvement there, now they're a threat. So it's like the threat
yeah,
was created by the
yeah,
West.
exactly.
It seems to be a common theme of how things have gone in the Middle East as of late, the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, well, Trump comes to the presidency, and people are clamoring change, change. Oh, this is how great this is, and I agree at some level to that because he's anti-establishment, but there's still no coverage of this Yemen conflict. There is no
Yeah, well, he's
acknowledgement.
acting like anti-establishment, at least in America, but his foreign policy so far has been very much consistent with the establishment, with both the policies Bush and Obama followed.
Hmm. And there might be a runaway kind of military industrial complex that acts in secret, that doesn't
Definitely.
listen to the president, doesn't take orders from him, that kind of does what they want to do, and he just might not be privy to it. That's a possibility. But at the same time, like if us, the plebes out here in YouTube land, can figure this out in 25 minutes, then you think the president would already know about it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I
So
think this is I think this is the so far in the first 2 weeks of the Trump presidency, he's done what he had claimed to do and claimed what he was going to do in his election process. But now, he wasn't. He definitely played up the Iran conflict, but Yemen wasn't mentioned. Um, he was anti-Iraq war heavily in the election, criticized Hillary and other Republicans for supporting the Iraq war.
mhm.
So, but now it looks like that was all a lie because he's supporting these current wars that are just as bad, if not worse, than the Iraq
yeah,
war.
it's really interesting to see what's happening because yeah, he claimed to be anti-war, and but now he was anti-war in the beginning. Those wars caused destabilization in the region, but now he's foregoing in and cleaning up the destabilization. That is asinine. Like I think Ron Paul said it best: just get out of there, just leave.
Yep.
You shouldn't have been there in the first place. Just leave. And now we're seeing people like Alex Jones, of all people, beating the war drum for Trump
Yeah.
and criticizing people like Ron Paul, which he would have had on and championed till the sun went down. Now he's saying,
Yeah.
well, I disagree with Ron Paul because we have to go in and clean up all the Trump says this and we got to do this. Like, people are going a little crazy, I think.
Yep. Yeah, it's very disconcerting, and I think anybody who's paying attention to wars occurring in the world right now is very alarmed.
Yep.
And that Iran war was supposed to be the capstone of the seven countries General Wesley Clark spoke about
Mm-hmm.
right after 9/11, the plan to overthrow governments in seven Middle Eastern countries, and six of those seven that has occurred, and
Iran is
Iran
the
was the
last one.
capstone. So it looks like this Yemen conflict, it may, while Yemen is strategically located, it may be just an excuse to get us involved with Iran.
It's very true. I didn't think about it that way. But yeah, you're right. They've been pushing the Iran war rhetoric for so long. I mean, I
Yeah.
remember there was a big debate, remember when Bush was president and we were talking about going to war in Iraq and we were in middle school. I think we were in 7th or 8th grade when that happened. And we were all debating, what should we do it or not? And then after that happened, we went into the Afghanistan thing happened, and then all of a sudden the Iran war rhetoric started up, and people were really arguing with each other about whether we should go or not. It's like, this is
Yep.
war rhetoric that's being pushed on you by the state, and you haven't really heard anything since then. You've heard a little bit here
So
and there, but
there was a curious operation that occurred. I'm going to say this was around, we could look this up, it's probably around 2007, circa 2007. You had the acting puppet president of Iraq, Ahmadinejad,
mhm.
on a speaking tour of the United States, in which he said a lot of provocative things, uh, where he advocated for, the 12th Imam coming back to the world, and
I remember that.
major killings and massacres, and there was one famous incident where he was asked about gay rights, and he simply said, "We don't have gay people in Iran." So that you see him over here. Obviously, he wasn't the one in control in Iran. I don't think anybody thought that, but he was supposedly representing the interest of Iran, and he's over here in America, and they're supposed to be our enemy. Why is he on the speaking tour? I think it was to get us conditioned for this conflict with Iran, and
Totally.
have an excuse to say, "Oh, we need to go invade them because they're going to nuke Israel." A lot of the right wingers are saying Iran's crazy and they want to nuke and destroy Israel to bring back the 12th Imam. And I don't believe that for 1 second. I think the rulers there are just as corrupt as all the other rulers in the world, and are just using heavy Islam to control their populace, would be my guess.
I would agree totally. I agree. Yeah, there's something very strange about what's going on, and Iran now is going down a very similar path to said we weren't going to do this really, but to tie these two things together. But Libya and Iran going down the same path.
Yep.
Libya, Gaddafi tries to basically create a gold-backed currency. He's taken out.
Yeah.
Iran just announced that they're cutting ties with the U.S. dollar. So something very similar could happen over there.
Yeah, that's very alarming. That just came out this week, and I think that's alarmed many of us who've paid attention to such events. The U.S. dollar must be protected at all costs. It was what it appears as of late. Mm-hmm. It seems like that is, for the world reserve currencies, I believe the U.S. dollar has hovered around somewhere around 60% of those basket currencies. Oh, really? So it's by far the dominating currency. And that would be the one that most of the big banking institutions hold, mm-hmm. especially the ones with power. So they're going to do anything to protect that.
Yes.
Yeah, and it looks like, unfortunately for Yemen, they've gotten caught up in this whole scheme, even though they didn't have any involvement. No. I don't think they're alleged to have anything to do with 9/11, just like Saddam Hussein in Iraq and Gaddafi in Libya.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same BS they're giving us.
It's hard to reconcile in your mind, too, that the genocide of women and children of an entire country might be occurring to create a scapegoat
Yeah.
so that we can commit genocide in another country. What the hell is going on? Like, that
Yeah.
might be as sinister as that. We're
And
going to kill these people so that we get you energized to kill these people.
And there's been, tons of as Trump has been elected, there's been tons of talk about comparisons to Hitler and Nazism and the Holocaust of the Jews, but we're watching this basically occur in a much different way. Genocide is occurring in a much different way in another country, and it's not being reported.
Right.
It's
And the
like we're
people that
being
are saying
misdirected with this Trump
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and the people that are saying Trump's a Nazi, whatever, those are mainstream talking points. They're just regurgitating the bile that's being spoon-fed to them by the television or their whatever media source they're rifling through or very lazily reading. So, yeah, there's a little more to it than that, but we are witnessing something that is, I would say, a bigger genocide in Yemen. It's more sinister and more satanic, really, than the Holocaust in Germany. You're already looking
Possibly.
at more than 1 million more people being affected by this entire situation than anyone was really in the Holocaust.
Yeah, I mean, we have an estimated population of Yemen of about 24 million, and their whole country is being torn apart, and they're running out of food. Yeah, I think we could easily see way more people affected than we saw in Nazi Germany.
And they might not have their big museum-worthy, gas chambers like they claim are in Germany, but hell, there are 7 million people right now that don't know where their next meal is coming from, and they are gaunt and starving.
Yeah.
I think the figure that like the Holocaust Museum will use in the United States is 6 million Jews. Well, there's more. There's 7 million people affected right there who will all probably die.
Yeah.
Seriously, there'll probably be more than that, and it will continue, and it's just being ignored.
Yeah, I'd say that the striking difference in the was the Holocaust, what, about 70, 80 years ago now. We didn't have the internet or anything back then. Nobody around the world knew what was occurring in Germany. We didn't find out about the Holocaust till after World War II, right? If I'm not mistaken, no one really knew nearly the extent of what was occurring in Germany. We know what's occurring in Yemen. We have the internet, especially in America, and most of the alleged free worlds. You can look up whatever you want, and you can see the atrocities being committed in Yemen. There's no excuse for not getting the word out, and a lot of people know.
Yep.
Yeah,
and a lot of other countries are aware of this, but I don't see Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. I don't see any of them talking about it.
No, they haven't mentioned it at all, and I think that's on purpose, and that's what Julian Assange said when he published the Yemen files. He said it's coverage is conspicuously rare in the Western world or in English media.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, that is one of the biggest stories that's not being talked about. I was blown away when I started looking into this. It's nuts. It's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that will conclude our episode on Yemen today. Expect more on the subject as we continue to move forward into the Trump presidency here, and we'll keep you all updated on our thoughts on Yemen, and hopefully it doesn't get as bad as we're making it out to be right now, but unfortunately it looks pretty grave there.
Unfortunately. Thanks for tuning in.